you've been from a very young age considered a real life wizard. What does that mean?
Well, I think we all are wizards, and we've just been gaslighted into not believing in our own abilities that God gave us in this biology and in our soul. But, when I was 4, I was already moving stuff with my mind. I was telepathic, so I could read, what my mom was about to say on her phone call with a friend and say it out loud before she would say it. I could feel people and see their insecurities. That's why, in preschool and kindergarten, every day I would start the day by sharing a compliment to my teachers because I could feel their deepest insecurity, like their voice. Like, my kindergarten teacher didn't like her voice, insecure speaking. So I was like, oh, your voice is sweet like honey. And I would try to just help people. And that's how I was just born that way. And yeah.
So you're saying in kindergarten, you would be able to see how people were feeling and their insecurities.
I could see it. I could feel it. I could know it. And yeah, I just got a lot of data instantly when I would just meet someone or see someone.
So do you feel like you said we all are like this deep down?
100%.
Why so?
Well, thousands of years ago, we all lived that way. We lived in communities where we were all telepathic. And, one of my teachers actually lived, today in Africa, there's tribes where children don't really cry. He lived with the community for months and finally heard a small child cry because he had malaria. And then he realized, oh, wow, I haven't heard a cry in months, because before a child is hungry or has an emotional issue, someone in the community can feel them with their own nervous system, or they can feel if someone sees a snake in the jungle and they'll go out and help them. And so it's something that we've built into ourselves that we've just disconnected from.
What, so we aren't supposed to cry?
It's not that we're not supposed to cry, but that I think children cry so much because they're not being felt by their parents or their community. And so we've been disconnected from really being able to connect deeply with each other. And so that's why much of the emotional issues that we have today, which some tribes don't even understand, they think it's insanity because they don't experience that.
What do you think some of the main things that are getting in the way are?
Physically, it's toxins, Wi-Fi. We're being bombarded by all this propaganda and distorted television shows and content. And we're missing the information of how to connect with each other. So there's multiple generations where we just are being taught the opposite of what's true. And that's creating all sorts of kinks in the neural network that we're meant to have together as a community.
Were you discovering this from quite a young age? Did you feel like something was wrong from a very young age?
When I was 4, I tried to tell my mom, like, I'm different. I'm not from here, and she was like, no.
What do you mean not from here?
I didn't really feel like I was from Earth. I felt like I was from a different place. And I was trying to explain because I would go to the bathroom and burn out a light bulb with my energy. And I could read people's thoughts, and other people around me, they didn't seem to be able to do that. And so I felt like I was different. And then going back, I realized, no, I was just, born this way, and most people around me already had shut it down.
What do you mean it already had shut it down?
When we're born, like children, they're innocent. And I feel like we can get so much information. We can say something, but if we're feeling differently, the child will be able to know, right? They'll be able to actually see oh, you're not being authentic. And we start second guessing ourselves because our parents punish us if we say something that's the truth or if they're hiding it, right? And most people are just not being authentic and hiding things. And then the children learn to do that as well and disconnect from themselves, disconnect from others. And we form all these complexes that separate us from the truth.
How do we know what the truth is, though?
I believe, as we clear our instrument, we're like a musical instrument. And when we have a clean body and a clean mind, and we're not having all these distorted programs and stories, and also clear a lot of our traumas, that we are antennas to the true information, and we can instantly tap into all sorts of information. So it's really just kind of cleaning our instrument back to how we were designed to begin with.
So you said that you knew this from quite a young age, and you kind of hid a lot of it because you didn't want to feel left out, feel isolated. You just didn't think people would get it. You didn't want to offend people. So you kind of refrained from expressing your true self. Is that what you did growing up?
Yeah, it just happened more and more. My parents were going through a divorce and they did their best, but there was just a lot of things being withheld. And essentially, I just started shutting down more and more and more until I forgot what even love was. I stopped feeling love. I became suicidal, depressed, social anxiety, dissociated, autistic, all sorts of things where I literally just felt like I was in a video game and nothing was real. I couldn't even really move my face, make eye contact, say anything that was actually true myself. And I just became a zombie.
What led you to that of feeling nothing and feeling like a zombie?
I believe it was a combination of just toxins that I was given, medically and in the food, a lot of abuse, being, put in school and forced to, sit and learn things that much of it was either false or not actually true and relevant to a thriving real education that we can give our children. And so over and over again, I felt like I was just tortured inside, and I kept creating more and more armor. And that's what we all do in our own way, right? We just build more and more armor to kind of protect us from life. But then now life can't really get in.
Yeah. So you mentioned in the order of your parents were going through a divorce, then you started feeling depressed, suicidal, and things of that nature. Did the divorce play a big role in the way you were feeling? Was it challenging
100%.
for yourself?
Yeah. I started really disconnecting from feeling safe, feeling like I could be myself, and there's fighting going on all the time. Then lawyers got involved. It was like a 5-6 year divorce at least, and different family members. So it was kind of like a war at home. And then I just started disconnecting from all my family because I started not trusting any of them. And so I stopped having a single person that I could actually say, hey, here's what I'm feeling. Can you help me? And then, so I just kind of gave up. I'm like, there's no need to be authentic. There's no need to share anything. And I would just dissociate, meaning I would just leave my body and go somewhere else. And I think that also reconnected me with some superpowers, because now that brings about a lot of abilities I have, but also it's been a journey to actually get back in my body and learn how to be human, because I didn't really live a childhood.
So when you said you would go somewhere else, where would you go?
I would sometimes go to different dimensions. It seemed like, I would see different beings. A lot of times I would kind of go into fantasy, like I would just be in an imaginary world because I hated the one I was in. So it was just anywhere that would just be different. I would start thinking about things and invent different, structures and things in my mind. So I would just kind of be out there. Yeah.
I'm so intrigued. I wonder where and how it gets to this, because at the very start you said we're all like this deep down, which is an interesting thing.
We're all connected. I think a lot of us are in our bodies, but I was an extreme case of having it in a strong way growing up, and then also shutting down so extremely.
Like you mentioned a lot of different things, like being telepathic, being able to feel how people are feeling and know their insecurities, know what they're going through, even if you're not even with them. It's like I struggle to understand how that works and how you can actually feel that, experience that.
You ever gone to a room and you just feel like there's a person or energy that's off? And sometimes you just contract, So I think everyone has that to different degrees. And, not everyone's the same. Obviously, we have many different psychic, intuitive faculties. Some people get vision. Some people just know things. Most of us can feel things. But I believe we all have it to certain degrees. And you can also develop it just like going to the gym. But essentially, there's so many times also you're thinking about someone and they call, and we just be like, oh, that's a coincidence. But what's actually happening is you're radio, and we're getting signals all the time. And most people just lost the sensitivity or try to shut it down because they're overwhelmed with that sensitivity and they don't know how to handle it. So you've either told yourself it's not real, and then you keep blocking the evidence that you're getting actual information, or you just try to shut it down because you're overwhelmed. And the number one reason people do that is because as empaths, you try to people please, and you had to do that to survive as a kid, right? And so it gets draining and overwhelming to try to scan and make everyone happy and pick up their emotions. And then we just want to shut that down.
So I guess getting back into your body is important. Do you think there's a lot of things that are distracting us in our life, and it kind of masks us to not be able to feel these things?
100%. And that's the journey I'm still on today, is just learning how to really feel my body and stay in it, because my whole life was totally out of my body.
Yeah, you mentioned that your whole upbringing, you were trying to be normal.
Well,
What does that mean, and what do you mean by that?
Well, I feel like I came in with a completely different operating system. And so just I was autistic, I was out of my body. So I was super nerdy and I was like trying to play sports and wasn't that good at it and didn't really know how to connect with the kids in school. So I was like, maybe if I'm just really funny or maybe, like how do I make my face? They're making this face. What does that mean? Like I didn't even understand facial recognition really. So I tried to change how I looked and I tried to like speak how other people, which I think all kids do to some degree, most of them in the society today at least. And I was trying to just radically change who I was to try to have someone love me because underneath it, I believe that no one actually loved me and I was unlovable
Why did you feel like you were unlovable?
because I couldn't feel acceptance, and especially for the unique parts of myself from the people around me. And so I couldn't feel that from really anyone, even though they really tried. Looking back, my parents and everyone did love me super deeply and do, but we just couldn't really communicate, and I couldn't feel safe to really be myself. And so I created this complex that I was unlovable.
So did you go on a journey to seek acceptance?
At first, yeah, I tried to just radically change how I looked and spoke, and then finally, like senior year of high school, it failed. Obviously, I just kind of became crazy, and that was my first deep depression. Where then I was put on meds, which only made things worse, and that was a decline of a few years, where I went just completely into psychosis and all sorts of things because I was just, everything that I was trying to build was built on sand, and it kind of fell because it wasn't who I was.